I'm used to stay on the other side of the camera, so it's nice to be here. This is Ivan Pintabona. Ivan is the CTO MVP. Fabio Ghezzi is the audio, visual and production manager, Serie B, and Ferruccio Zanotti, senior producer, Sky Sport, basically dedicated to football events. So before starting the panel and the questions, can we have a video on remote production Serie B, so the, well, second league. So before asking questions, well, just one quick word on Serie B, so let's say B League or second league. It's a challenge for us. Now, a challenge we've taken up 2 years ago after the rights disruption. You know, matches are now managed, exclusively DAZN, and 3 matches for us. I have to say that we really wanted, to get into the host production Serie B, so the second league. Thanks to the skills of our people, we are sure we can bring about value added. So once again, the second league, or Serie B, will be very close to what is being currently done for the first league, so Major League or Serie A in Italian. Now, the key objective was to start the ball rolling, isn't it, Ferruccio and Fabio? So that was almost 2 years ago in the summer. We just wanted to start with the host production, 319 matches. Then we started, let's say, bringing up some innovation, if you will. So, what is done on the UEFA, but also Serie A events, we want to do the same on Serie B. Basically, a 4K production, of course, HD. We started using drones, so just remember what we did at the finals playoffs last year. Plus, if you will, other innovation attempts, corner cams in the playoff finals. That was the first step. Now, we also have a second step, by the way. Together with my colleagues, it was encouraged, to reach the place where we are now. The second step was basically the willingness to do more and better. So, this is why we have all of you here in this panel, Remote Production, RP. So we decided to sign an agreement with NVP. Now, NVP and the agreement means so we can start, production, remote production for some Serie B championship. My first question is for Ivan. Now, we understand this is the remote production, RP. Ivan, can you give us some color on the full remote production? Can you expand on the workflow of the production? Then the quality of images, but also the quantity of the bandwidth. What are the challenges that you had to take up? So how did you react to those challenges, and what about the next challenges? Because it's a full partnership, isn't it? Now, because we keep talking so much about artificial intelligence, can AI get into the workflow? Well, first and foremost, grazie. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity with authoritative speakers and listeners. Okay, so many questions. Now, as for the workflow, let's say that the project was very well defined with some specific, dynamics we had to comply with. The workflow had to be very calm. I mean, the impact shouldn't have been too big or heavy. So we thought of the so-called agnostic model that can be linked or interfaced to any kind of production infrastructure on-site. This is a test or an experimentation phase, so it takes some time, and it has touched upon different steps. So we have the production model that was engineered by us. This is what we did for Serie B, but also the management of the network. So the connectivity backbone that has to be guaranteed. So based on this, we have developed a specific model, giving us the possibility to have just the cameras on the pitch, the so-called disaster or disaster recovery cameras. So all of the process management part, the so-called editorial part, I mean the complete services were taken to our innovation hub in nearby Cologno Monzese. This is an interconnected center, so we have traditional functions of every single production unit. All of this has been outsourced and managed. Now, this seems to be quite a simple workflow, but I have to say that we did bump into some difficulties. For example, the management of connectivity, so the bandwidth available. Now, this is, the second league or Serie B. I have to say that we have specific, connection levels that may change. So the network availability is, let's say, an average level. Of course, this is going to be increased over the years. Now, and even the width was increased from the beginning of the year, but of course the availability at the very beginning was 1 giga per second to be shared with all of the other services, of course. So the average availability we had in a stadium was 300 megas. Don't forget, we have 9 cams for Serie B with connected technologies, VAR, and many other pieces of equipment. So we have the main signals, the disaster signals. Basically, we have 15 to 16 signals. So we had to comply with this bandwidth. Now, that was a big challenge because, of course, we wanted to have the right quality and a very short latency. Exactly. If you want to manage a full remote production, so all remote functions, as Ferruccio just said, of course, we have to have a minor, very small latency. Now, to do this, we've used a cutting-edge technology based on special, unique, predictive algorithms that are able, if you will, and by the way, this is what you said before, so we are also using AI. So we managed to get this result. The latency is excellent, easy to manage, and I have to say that the product is a top-notch, top-quality product. Now, as for the process management, well, I have to say that we had to create, from scratch, the entire backbone, the so-called mechanism. So, of course, I'm talking about, directors, but I'm also talking about, cam operators. Now, I can say that this experience is quite similar to the traditional one. Let me also say that this is what we managed to get with a hybrid mode. So we have the signal transfer management system. In this case, we use a specific technology which is based on, computational power. So we treat, if you will, signals in inverted commas thanks to that model. But then once again, we have another 2110 core, and inside that center, we are able to manage the signals, of course, in a broadcast mode, which is what you've seen in the video. This is what we usually do. Now, this is a two-way system, so one direction, but also the counter direction. Ivan, may I interrupt you? In the video central system, we have different signals. So those which come directly from the stadium, and then the quality of the signal is always the same. You're right. I mean, this is the attempt that we are doing, and I have to say that the result of this attempt is highly satisfactory, and this is due to the fact that basically we haven't seen any worsening or, of the compression, even over compression of the signal. So, as Ferruccio just said, we also managed, to take up this challenge and to win it. Now, as for all of the other steps involved in the process, well, as I said before, the most important thing for us now, because of course we, stepped into a process that had already started earlier, I have to say that the experience we want to deliver has to be very similar to the real actual one, and from this point of view I have to say we are very happy. As for your question on remote production together with FRP, so full remote production, now, of course, this is something that we haven't invented ourselves. This is something we have dealt with and managed in many different modes or ways. But I have to say that there's a key step I'd like to highlight, which is represented by the challenges I have just mentioned, but also by the potential that this kind of concept is giving us. It's a concept, but it's also a specific, mode of application, if you will. Now, this means that we have the possibility to manage all of these flows, and we can also add extra, functionalities, other, ways of management that, of course, will be used in the future. Anyway, this is the experience we have had this year, and I'm sure that this is a great know-how. Unquestionably, the possibilities represented by the fact that we have created a specific mode. This means that in some stadiums or some, let's say, underconnected locations, or, locations where the connectivity is weak, well, we have the possibility to create a specific workflow. This means that we can have a top-level broadcast production. So, let's say the on-air mode of this kind of products. So this is opening to new horizons for the future, and I'm sure that, these topics are now crystal clear, and I guess they are very easy to understand. You're right. I also have a question to Fabio. Sorry, I forgot to say one important thing. The second step we made on remote production, well, we did it because, the league, so Serie B, was open to do this. So Fabio has been a key driver and even an accelerator. So all of the experimentation we did, right, because, without Fabio, I have to say that all of this wouldn't have been possible. So, back to you, Fabio. I have a couple of questions. Question number one, what is the Lega, your association's point of view? Are you happy with this? Are you satisfied with this? I also understood that there's a technological step forward, which is really, really very important. Now, from the content, if you will, point of view, what about full remote production? Can it be an accelerator in the creation of contents and, as a consequence, in, let's say, the use of the contents by end users? Okay, this is my key question. Really wanted, as Lega, my association, I really wanted to thank Sky. Thank you for what you did, because what we have done, what you have done recently, so in the last 1.5 years, well, we have completely disrupted, the way football was managed before the full remote production from Sky. This is not due to me, because I was not there, but I have to say that for personal reasons, considering our history, having Sky as one of our partners, well, you've been much more than an accelerator, much more than a key driver. Well, we speak the same language, so to say. We met many years ago. We did many things together. So I think that this is really important, the fact of, speaking with people with whom we share the same words or the same vocabulary, so to say. So this means you can really have joint forces and the right strategy and the same philosophy. I really would like to thank you, Sandro, Ferruccio, Stefano. So they are our key partners. Now, as for the outcomes of the results we managed to get, well, they are extraordinary. Because, for example, we have produced, key matches, and especially we have broadcast matches, because this is what the platform allows. So 4K HDR, so this is really great. So once again, the platform gives us this possibility. Now, we are here to talk about remote production, so let's face this topic, remote production. Now, from my point of view, and again, I represent Lega. Now, this idea was initially sort of crazy because, it was a perfect year. Then all of a sudden, they knock at the door and they offer something special. Now, I'm not, let's say, a technician or an engineer. But of course, I'm involved into this. I have fun, and I think technological innovation is a fantastic value per se. Because, when you do these things, of course, you discover you can do new things. Or maybe you can get unexpected, never seen before results. And this is what I really like. When I say I mean my association, the Lega. So we were a little worried at the beginning of this adventure because, of course, everything had to be shown. Now, wait a second. Of course, we trust you. We do trust you and the skills and capacity, But, of course, it was a challenge for everyone. You're right. Anyway, Lega, lives on this. This is our, key revenues which are generated by those getting the rights. And of course, the Sky, Tabit and DAZN. So despite these difficulties, we decided to go on. So the CEO gave me the green light, and we started off. So in my opinion, that process has been governed in quite a smart way. Let me tell you why. On the technical side, the people have understood the needs. Now, of course, this was much more than understanding. They really went in depth, together with the recommendations. My personal advice. So we put together a step-by-step process. This means that every single time we have added an extra bit, if you will, and eventually we have a great production. So if you see it today, you don't understand whether or not that this is remote or non-remote or local. Now, of course, the product is not the same. Almost everything changes. Now, the problem is that what changes and what really has to change, as usually in these contexts, is the mindset of people. I'm sure you know this industry, of course, because we've been working together for many years. Average age is quite high. We don't have many young talents, which is a big problem. There's no the so-called generational replacement, so changing the mindsets, the ways people work, is terribly difficult. So once again, notwithstanding all this, we had to push and encourage people to change, so things went very well. So what you see on air is the same. What completely changes is what's behind the scenes. Now, from my point of view, your question, Dante, is absolutely crucial. Let me tell you why. So again, what we see hasn't changed, but what we do behind the scenes is now, let's say, generating, twice as many efforts. Well, so this is not worth doing this. Okay, headaches, stomachache, and many other, so many different pains, so to say. But despite this, it is worth doing it because, when we talk about, remote production, RP, this is a complete architecture and it is built with many different elements. Now, one of the key elements, as even rightly said before, what is fundamental is connectivity. So, because we represent Serie B, it was very difficult, to connect every single stadium with 1 giga. They had 1 giga in the previous season, so then we shifted to remote production. We understood we can do it, but of course 10 gigas is much better for many different reasons. Now, having this kind of connectivity allows us to not just to produce remotely with so many advantages, unquestionable advantages. Better use of resources, less pollution, and then basically we don't travel, so we don't move cars or trucks. I've been working on the product for all of my life, so of course I keep checking the product, the final product. Now, we all know that the football product, well, this is a top-notch product. This is no longer a killer application, okay? So this means we have to look for extra value to be added to the current value. So if I just produce a match, I create the program and then I just redistribute it. Okay, this is the value that you can give to your subscribers. They pay a subscription and so on and so forth. But once again, unquestionably, this is going to disappear. The world has changed. I'm not telling you it is changing. It has changed already. Just look at the ways people use contents, including this kind of, contents, for example, from, young people. This has completely changed. So again, this means that we have to have new prospects. And, prospects today are young people that in the near future, they will potentially become the subscribers of Sky or DAZN. So again, we have to have the program, of course, to be redistributed, but at the same time, we have to have the entire content made available. And, for example, every single individual, cam converging into the same center, so I can do storage and I can process all of these videos. So this is a plus, this is an advantage. It is an extra potential because I can make contents that do not yet exist today. So all of this is absolutely very important. I'm sure Lega will sell all of this. So they will sell A plus B plus C and many other things. So in general, we will be helped to produce contents. So today we just have one single way to watch a match. In the future there will be many ways. And I'm not talking about, 10 years. I'm really talking about maybe months or just a few years. So from our point of view, this is really very important. We're now working on a project, so we are now creating a new center. And from that center, which is exactly, the A League or Major League. So from that center, from that hub, we will be able to work on a system that gives us the possibility to do what I just told you. Now, that hub, of course, will be connected with key suppliers. So this is not a complete disruption, if you will. So it won't change our relationships with suppliers. But what will change is that we will have, if you will, a much bigger production capacity in terms of contents. Again, in my opinion, this is a sort of an indirect advantage generated by remote production. In my opinion, this is the real, game changer. Okay, I hope I have answered your question. Thank you so much. Yes, that was my question. Thank you for your answer. At the beginning of your answer, let me go back to Serie B. You said that if we want remote production to work well, we all have to work towards the same objective, okay? So we have to have the same language, as you said before. I think that this is a great example. This is what we've done with Serie B this year. So apart from remote production, we convinced the Serie B to play during the World Championships. So visibility was skyrocketing. and it was not easy at all, because of course clubs just wanted, to stop and freeze, just like the A League or First League, just like Albizu DAZN. We have offered them a sort of a showcase, so they enjoyed an incredibly high level of visibility. They've been, long-sighted enough to follow us, and we got marvelous results. We've concentrated our production on those matches because we knew those matches would generate a very high, if you will, participation of feedback from the audience. So if we want to be successful when we do remote production or any innovation, we need plenty of players around the same table, and we all have to be in the same boat, rowing towards the same direction. Once again, we have to keep pushing, but once again, as we say in Italia, rowing towards the same target. I have another question. This one is for Ferruccio Zanotti. Now, Ferruccio, you are everywhere, so Champions League and any kind of league. I mean, do we have differences or do we have similarities between remote production on the one side, so on-site production? Of course, I'm talking about the Cologno Monzese-based VMP hub. And maybe next step, maybe producing remotely even more important events. I mean, from the point of view of the number of camps, for example, the Champions Leagues, because recently we have announced that we have sort of improved or even renovated, as we say, some of our customers. Now, as for similarities, now this was absolutely an incredible personal disruption. I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been, traveling around different pitches. Before remote production, I was in San Siro, so I was on my van. Then after 1 week, we had, the remote production in Pisa, 400 kilometers away. Now, that was an identical situation, so just like, the stadium. Now, I was afraid that may have been a confused situation. But just because I was told I was in Pisa, otherwise I thought I was just out of the stadium. Now, of course, you don't have the warmth, the human side of the stadium, but this was absolutely incredible for me. I was very reluctant because, before doing something, you know me, so I keep, thinking over and over again. Okay, so maybe I am a pain in the neck for my colleagues, and I'm sorry for this, but I found myself working in exactly the same conditions. Differences are opportunities, in my opinion. So now, as for means of transport, it's okay, but this is great. I mean, we have less cars and vans, so this is great for sustainability. This is also important for Sky. We also managed complicated situations. For example, Venice or Cagliari. This is, they are, let's say, complicated locations. Now, the Milan-based hub means that we can really count on so many technicians and engineers, because of course you find technicians in the largest cities here in Italy, or for example the VS operators. It's really difficult to find VS operators, I mean top skilled, top qualified operators. So this means that you can really count on the best people, the best talents, and then you can also work on the so-called secondary or minor championships, for example Serie C, which is the third league. There's another opportunity, which is again very important, which is slashing costs. So all of these savings may be reinvested in terms of improving production, which is one of the things we will be doing. Maybe the most important thing ever is what Fabio said before. I mean, we can offer an unprecedented quantity of contents, especially now, because you can count on, multiple platforms. Now, just for the league, you may get, from social networks, or even in terms of broadcasting, Okay, so this is what the Sky producer may say. As a broadcaster, we can really take advantage of all of this material and talents. And there's another consequence. We may want to, keep doing the classic traditional production, so the on-site production, which is what we tested. I mean, the final graphics, the final VAR signal goes back to the stadium. The latency is much less than 0.5 seconds, so there have been no negative comments about this. But we can also have remote integration, so we can save so much on integration. This means, savings, or maybe doing more integration, on-site integration. By the way, don't forget that you can do this thanks to the bandwidth that we now have. So in the future, we will have, a sort of zero latency, or maybe just some frames. So these are great opportunities that we are taking advantage of. Now, as for your second question, which is much more difficult now, based on what I've seen in terms of the bandwidth available now in the world, but also in terms of the dependability of the bandwidth, this is what happened in the past months. I mean, we are on air now, but this is a test bench. So next year we will have the real 100% remote production systems. So again, in my opinion, remote technology is ready for the big jump. Now, it goes without saying that we have to create a specially made workflow, because also in football, I mean, you have different workflows. For example, Champions Leagues or the different leagues. So all of them have different, systems. Once again, Fabio, as you said before, mindset has to change. You're right. I mean, we've been working like this for 30 years with physical surfaces in a van very close to the stadium. We can now work, I don't know, something like 700 kilometers away. So this is, in my opinion, the biggest challenge. Yes, we all have to work to get into this challenge. Now, may I have the very last question to Ivan? I think we have just a couple of minutes left. So, Ferruccio, as you said before, you said the word sustainability, so professional, environmental, economic sustainability. So, you did it. So, what are the opportunities, but also the threats, if any? Of course, I'm talking about RP, remote production. Now, Ferruccio and Fabio have already answered this question, in my opinion, because, again, if you consider the final model, there will be major reductions in terms of, handling personal vans, cars, consumptions, pollution, and so on. Another very important impact is represented, in my opinion, by the business. By this, I mean that many of the services we currently use are pay-as-you-go services. I mean, we just pay for the time we use. I mean, we don't have, if you will, an overarching investment. I mean, there are no fixed assets, so to say. So this means that for the company that makes investments, well, the situation changes. I think that the situation completely changes. And of course, this has an impact on you. And as Ferruccio said before, this turns into the opportunity to be able to produce or to work with some minor, secondary leagues. So this is a big change, because just consider the budget. I mean, with the same budget, you will have the possibility to produce something extra, thanks to these new technologies that help you save money. So in terms of research and development, Serie B for us was a great test bench. It was a major investment, but also a model that's teaching us so much from our point of view. I have to say that the positioning we have now is right at the top. Fabio, thank you. Thank you so much, because thank you so much for your support, and thank you for the the follow-up and the energy you've given us. Thank you. Okay then, thank you so much. Now let me quickly check if we have questions. We have the right people here now. Okay, if we don't have questions, well, thank you so much for your attention. This is it with panel number 1. So the floor goes now to Stefano Valsecchi for panel number 2, which is on the RPO MotoGP.